My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, as we draw nearer to the month of Ramadan, Allahumma ballighna Ramadan, we ask Allah to let us the opportunity, to permit us to witness that month at least a few more times. It's only befitting that we go ahead and we wrap up our series of sermons on lofty objectives, having high aims, setting healthy aspirations and goals. Last week we left off discussing some essential tools to success. And I thought, for the greater benefit, because there's numerous tools in the Sharia that we can utilize to see to success in this life, yes, here, today, in your business, at work, at home, with your wife, with your husband, tools that you can utilize to have a successful experience raising your children. So I wanted to share just a few more tools, extremely important, that can help us achieve success. We're all after success. I'm willing to bet that if I asked who wants to fail, no one would raise their hand. The question is, how badly do you want to succeed? And the more you want to succeed, the more likely you are to implement everything legislated to see to that end. So I start with this account, scenario transpired between a father and a son. Not just any father, though, but one of the greats, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, one of the great Muslim leaders, a pious scholar, unique in qualities that he possessed. So it was related by one of the great Imams, Al-Qurtubi, in his collection or his tafsir of the Quran. And believe it or not, the verse has essentially nothing to do with the story, except it talks about adornments. And so Imam Al-Qurtubi, in his style, he takes a verse and he just opens it up totally, completely, expounding upon every possible point that you could derive. And he ends up talking about men wearing rings, and the permissibility of wearing a ring and the different materials that one should use in wearing a ring. And we know that men are not permitted to wear gold, and women are encouraged to avoid silver, because that's the adornment of men. And if they don't have gold, then they should dye their silver jewelry with saffron to turn it yellow, to look like gold. That's not the point. The point is the story. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he got word that his son purchased a ring for 1,000 dirhams. It's a big purchase. It's a big purchase. He bought a ring, let's say, for $20,000, $50,000. And so when he got word of that, he wrote his son a letter. Let's say he sent him an email today or a text message. He said, "News has reached me that you bought a ring for 1,000 dirhams. He says, "Go sell the ring and feed 1,000 hungry people. Go sell the ring, take the money, and feed 1,000 hungry people. And then buy yourself a ring made from steel, a metal ring. And have engraved on that ring, Rahim Allah imra'an arafa qadra nafsi." He says, may Allah have mercy on the one who knows their self-worth. or who can appraise themselves appropriately. May Allah have mercy on the one who is self-aware, is basically what it means. Questions like, who am I? What are my values? What is my passion? Questions like, what are my strengths and my weaknesses? What do I want out of life? What is my worth? If you're able to answer these questions, then you are on your way to self-awareness. You possess conscious knowledge of your own character, your feelings, your motives, and your desires. You know who you are. And with that awareness, you are better positioned to achieve success. A person today, listen, because it's difficult to understand a true sense of self-awareness versus one that is fabricated, one that has been manipulated. A person of faith today, and as a minority even more so, being self-aware is a challenge. Knowing who we are is a huge challenge. It's a hurdle. It's a tall hurdle at that. We're often too distant from our faith. We're too far away from our faith, the tenets of our faith, and our faith values to keep us afloat in a sea of foreign expectations. Sometimes we define ourselves based on the expectations on those around us. I will be what you want me to be. I'll live up to the standards that you define for me. And as minorities, and this is not just here, by the way, a person of faith has become a minority almost around the world, a believer, a minority. And so what happens at times, if they have lost their way, they let people dictate to them who they are, or what is common culture of the day. If we allow ourselves to be distracted from knowing who we truly are, we as God-fearing people, our potential to true success or our potential for true success will be drowned in that sea of distraction. Sidestep, watch out. All of you are familiar with participation awards, right? This is a relatively new fad. Participation award or trophy. It means little Ahmed, just for showing up to the practices and the games at the end of the season, he's given a trophy. Good job. He didn't win. He wasn't exceptional. He wasn't outstanding. He showed up. And so, we gave him an award for showing up. As Americans, you and I, and the greater population, there is a split almost down the middle on how people feel about that. Should we give people participation awards, or should we just award them when they've done something great, or when they've won, or they've achieved success? There's a split down the middle on how we acknowledge winning and losing in American culture. How we acknowledge winning and losing. And right now you're probably thinking, yeah, that makes sense. We should give those things because it makes them feel good about themselves. Some of you may be thinking, no, you don't give participation awards. It doesn't highlight greatness, but it applauses mediocrity. The problem is not in the psychology behind it, your pro or your con. The problem is not in the psychology behind this trophy. It's beyond that. The problem lies in our fixation on worldly wins and losses. Our fixation as a culture on worldly wins and losses. Think about it for a minute. Think about it for a minute. Less than a minute. All of the events that's sporting to the end of it, it's all about wins and losses. And we get so fixated on those things. Did my team win? Did my team lose? We get emotional, we get angry, we become passionate, we become elated with joy, and it transfers into our life, wins and losses. And sometimes that drives us to do things, compromising things, just to get to the end, the win or the loss. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man kanat ad-dunya hammahu, farraqa Allahu alayhi amra, wa ja'ala faqrahu bayna 'aynayhi, wa lam ya'tihi min ad-dunya illa ma kutiba lahu." Whoever is focused on only this world, only worry about this world, the wins and the losses, what's happening, what's going on. My objective, my aim, my aspiration is this world. Allah will confound their affairs. It will become confusing. It's like you're spinning your wheels. Working all day, nothing happens. You don't know if you're coming or you're going. And I will make him fear poverty, constantly fearing poverty. And he will get nothing of this world except that which has been decreed of him. Because we become fixated on the dunya. That's not who we are. That's not who we are as people of faith. We're not fixated on this world as an end, aim, or objective. Not at all. If you are thinking that way, this is what I'm referring to. You've allowed your environment shape your awareness. The Prophet ﷺ, he concluded here. He says, وَمَنْ كَانَتِ الْآخِرَةِ نِيَّتَهُ جَمَّعَ اللَّهُ لَهُ أَمْرَهُ وَجَعَلَ غِنَاهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ وَأَتَتْهُ الدُّنْيَا وَهِيَ رَاغِمَةٌ. Whoever is focused on the hereafter, Allah will settle his affairs. Allah will make things easy for him. It will just all come together. The world and everything in it will just all come together. What does that mean? When you're focused on the akhirah, your family life is going to start to improve. And I'm not just talking about thinking about it, focusing your thoughts on it. I'm talking about doing things with the intention of pleasing Allah. When you become conscious of these actions, making sure that what you do is pleasing to Allah, your family life will get better, the relationship with your children will get better, your work will get better, your job will become easier, if you're employed, your colleagues and superiors will begin to notice your performance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will put blessing and barakah in that which you do. وَجَعَلَ غِنَاهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ. And He will, even more important, enrich your heart with contentment. You'll find contentment with what you have, where you're not craving and fixated on this world any longer. And then what happens? He says, وَأَتَتْهُ الدُّنْيَا وَهِيَ رَاغِمَةٌ. The world will be compelled to come to you. It will be compelled. It will be forced. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put it in front of you at your disposal. You won't even have the craving for it anymore. But the success will be there, one after the other. Reference the Prophet ﷺ. Reference the companions. Reference the legends of the deen. And you will see that is the case over and over again. They were not fixated on this world. They weren't fixated on the treasures that it has in its caverns, in its mountains. They weren't fixated on position and power and fame. Those were things that were secondary. They just came because of their self-awareness. They were self-aware. They knew who they were. They knew who they were. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to know who we are. Essentially, you have to be awake. You have to be awake to know who you are. Or you have to be woke, if you will, for a good sense of self-awareness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَعِذُكُمْ بِوَاحِدَةٍ أَن تَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ أَن تَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ. To the end of the verse, Surah Al-Saba. This is mentioned by one of the greats, Shaykh al-Islam, Al-Harawi, in his book Al-Manazil. This was the pride of the Afghans or the Persians. Shaykh al-Islam, he was a Persian scholar. Shaykh al-Islam al-Harawi, not Ibn Taymiyyah. He wrote a book, Al-Manazil. And in that book he talks about being awake or an awakening, coming into awareness. And he mentions this verse. It says, say, I only advise you of one thing, rise up for Allah. قُومُوا لِلَّهِ. Stand up for Allah subhanahu. Stand up for the truth. Stand up for the reality. Wake up from your slumber. You will know who you are. You will be aware of who you are. Our Sharia, the Sharia helps us develop a healthy sense of self by alerting us to refine our character, develop positive feelings, motives, and desires. It gives us direction. It tells us who we should be, and it gives us the tools to become that better person. It guides us to fix our sight on the hereafter, and if we focus on that process, Allah will give us the world. If we focus on that process, the process of striving for the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the world. So maybe, listen to this, because this is the kicker. Maybe you, still struggling for success, still trying to find success, and we all struggle. We're all still finding it. Maybe if we just fed a few more poor people, we would get that ring. If we did just a few more good things to please Allah, we would be ready for that ring. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضاه ونصلي ونسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. After that short pause, I give you another account, unrelated to the first. It was reported in Sunnah Abi Dawud and in the collection of Imam al-Bazzar. It's a collection of hadith. By the way, the hadith in Sunnah Abi Dawud, this particular narration, they question its strength, considering some of it to be weak. However, the collection of Imam al-Bazzar has a narration which strengthens it to be something we feel secure with. So, a beggar passed by Aisha radiallahu anha, a beggar. And she gave him a piece of bread. We know how that is. You drive into the city, you find people, they're begging. If you are up to it, perhaps maybe even a better society, you may give a piece of bread, give $1 or $2, keep it moving. Another man passed by. She made him sit down and gave him food. She made him sit down and gave him food. When she was asked about the action, meaning one person you dealt with one way, another person you dealt with a different way. She was asked about that. She said, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, أَنزِلُ النَّاسَ مَنَازِلَهُمْ. Treat people according to their ranks. Treat people according to their ranks. You may recognize the lesson in this tradition. Recognize the lesson in this hadith. Think about it. What is it teaching us? What is it telling us about? If you're up on the latest business publications, if you're on LinkedIn and you're into management and leadership, you find all kind of articles going up right now. Or psychology, the periodicals. You find all kind of articles that talk about the lesson of this hadith. And there are numerous hadith like this, by the way. There's an article titled, What is Social Intelligence? Why does it matter? Social intelligence. This is published in Psychology Today, this article. It was published by Claremont McKenna, professor. Claremont McKenna is one of the universities here in the United States, ranked top 10 of national liberal arts colleges. The professor, he states that social IQ is the key to career and life success. We know IQ, it's your smarts, you know, your book smarts kind of a thing. Social IQ means basically your street smarts. Social IQ includes knowing social roles, knowing rules and social scripts, how things play out in your society. You think about a conversation, a scenario. How is it going to unfold? Typically, those are social scripts. You're aware of those things, and you adjust your behavior and your interaction accordingly. That's social IQ. The Prophet ﷺ instructed us to interact with people based on who they were, their station in life. Their station in life. Not everybody is treated the same way. And when you look at this hadith and numerous other hadith which support the meaning, the principle behind it, the scholars, they say there's two different types of people when it comes to al-huquq, their rights, how you interact. Someone that is deserving of special treatment above and beyond the norm, and then those that are just given the basics. Like who? Your parents. Your parents. You don't talk to your parents like to talk to your friends, your spouse, your children, your neighbors, your close companions, your scholars, your leadership. They have specific special rights, ways that you engage them, address them. And then people that don't have that, they're just deserving of basic rights of being a human, being Muslim. You don't oppress them, you don't harm them, you give them what's due, and that's it, you know. There's no VIP to it. It also consists of verbal fluency and communication. Sometimes we don't know how to talk to each other. We don't know how to talk to each other. Sometimes we don't take into consideration who we're talking to. We just talk to people any old way. That's not social IQ. That's a barrier to success. And that's what I'm getting at. Social communication, effective listening skills is important. Role-playing. Social self-efficacy. Efficacy, that you are capable in social situations. You understand how to interact with people. I'll give you an example, because you're probably waiting. Well, what's this have to do with Islam? And Islam is about prayers and zakat and siyam. Should be talking. You know what? You should be talking about Ramadan anyway. Right? It's only a week away. Tell me how I'm supposed to fast right now. This is all part of it. The Prophet ﷺ, because this has, as we were talking about before, we discussed this before, thinking beyond yourself as a Muslim, thinking beyond yourself as an individual, and wanting to have a greater impact, where the benefit goes beyond and reaches more than yourself. 1, 2, tens, thousands, hundreds, millions. Listen to this, because this is the exact story here. The Prophet ﷺ, he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal, great companion. He sent him to Yemen to spread the word of Islam, to spread the teachings of the Quran and the Hadith. And he sent them there, and he said to this great companion, you are going to the people of the book. You are going to the people of the book. First called them to testify there is no true God except Allah, and that I, Muhammad, am the messenger of Allah. And he carried on to the hadith about the protocol, if you will, the order in which to address them, how to address them, and the order to do so. Social intelligence. You're going to the people of the book. That means the people of the book, they know about revelation. They know that there's Allah. They know there's a God. They believe in God. They believe in the hereafter. They believe in prophets and messengers. They believe in the holy books, the scriptures that have been revealed. They believe in those things. So address them accordingly. Interact with people in a receivable way. By being able to interact, socially intelligent, you address people in a highly customized fashion. You're able to determine who they are, what their tics are, what turns them off, what turns them on. That, of course, comes by listening. It shows wisdom and sophistication. It shows wisdom and sophistication. By being socially intelligent, you build rapport with people quicker. And by doing so, you gain trust. You gain their trust when you're able to talk to them and address them in a manner which is customized to them, appropriate for who they are and their station in life. You can gain trust, and you can break down barriers. So this story of Mu'adh bin Jabal, by the way, when he went to Yemen, and he, of course, with the divine intervention of Allah, and then some basic instruction on social intelligence, he was largely successful. What do you know of Yemen today? Muslim country or not? When did they accept Islam? Was it hundreds of years later? No, it was then. Mu'adh ibn Jabal, it was at his hand by Allah's leave. He was trained by the Prophet ﷺ. He was trained how to interact with people. This is one of the fundamental keys to success. And I'll conclude with one more. And this is a short but sweet one. That is ownership. Taking ownership. Having pride of ownership. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, كَتَبَ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. That Allah has truly prescribed ihsan for everything. Pride of ownership means you own what you're doing. You take responsibility for it. And it's a reflection of who you are. And so you do it to the best of your ability. 100%. You're proud of that thing. I'm a teacher. I'm a mechanic. I'm a doctor. I'm a salesman. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a Muslim. I own those things. So I take pride in them. And the only way I can be proud of that is with ihsan. It's to strive and to do your best. And to never, ever blame others for your failures. This is part of ownership and responsibility. This is a key to success. If you start blaming others for your failures, it prevents you from learning and improving. Oh, I couldn't get it done because there was no paper in the copy machine. I couldn't get it done because my car ran out of gas. I couldn't be there on time because it's easy to do that. It's easy. It's the easy escape. But it's the ultimate prevention from ihsan. Blaming others doesn't work in this life, and it certainly will not work in the next, especially when it comes to your hereafter. Well, I couldn't pray because XYZ. There will be a conversation. There will be an attempt to blame, as it often happens here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this very thing in the Quran. He's talking about what shaitan he will say after the matter has been concluded, after they have been judged, judgment has been given. He will say to them, indeed Allah had promised you the promise of truth. And I promised you, but I betrayed you. I promised you, but I betrayed you. But I had no authority over you except that I invited you. He says, فَلَا تَلُومُونِي. Do not blame me. وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Blame yourselves. Own it yourself. Own your actions. Own your identity. Own who you are. And if you're able to embrace that, inshallah, success is around the corner. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to guide us to that which He loves and is pleased with, to bring remedy to those that are ill and sick, suffering in our communities and beyond, to free us of our vices, and to free those that are shackled with debts. Sallallahu sallam ala nabina Muhammad wa akhiru da'wana. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.